It began with one post, and then 41 million views later, the internet wouldn't look away. A single, meticulous Twitter thread stitched together years of Hailey Bieber's most debated moments and turned scattered whispers into a full-blown digital expose. Overnight, it stopped being stan drama and became a case study in how celebrity myths are built, how parasocial loyalties harden, and how the receipts we publish about ourselves never really disappear. Yes, Selena Gomez sits at the origin point of much of this story, because Jelena versus Hailey has framed a decade of online trench warfare, but the thread's real provocation was broader, a claimed pattern of small cuts, cryptic captions, and conveniently timed posts that laid end to end suggested something darker than garden variety pettiness. The opening example was already infamous, a clip of Hailey asking someone to change the radio when a Selena song came on, then choosing to share it. Petty to some, intentional to others. From there, the thread pulled at every loose string. Screenshots showing Hailey allegedly telling a fan page to delete photos of Justin and Sophia Richie, a tone critics read as territorial. Likes and comments tied to the Taylor Swift Scooter Braun saga, including the gentleman comment under read Justin's post that Swifties saw as siding with the mockery. Resurfaced old tweets dragging Taylor and Harry Styles. A muted Billie Eilish track posted. Mid-chart battle, coincidence or not? None of these moments alone is a felony of fame. But the power of the thread was the timeline. What looks like dust when scattered can look like a trail when swept into a single row. A lot of the alleged behavior lived in the gray zone, passive-aggressive enough to deny, pointed enough to land. The thread cites follows of supposed Selena hate accounts. Captions like, "If you knew what I was thinking, you'd laugh." Posting a song Selena's on but choosing the version without her. Praising a woman one day and allegedly liking a negative post about her the next. There were anecdotes. 2. Claims that Hailey and Kendall's energy made Jordan Woods leave a party early, or that Hailey publicly critiqued other models' ads and makeup. None of this is illegal. All of it is public. And once posted, it's permanent. That permanent screenshots, screen recordings. Timestamps is why the thread read less like gossip and more like an archive. Defenders had an obvious counter: people grow up. Social media in 2012 was feral. Standards shift. Everyone has an embarrassing digital attic. Fair, but the thread's strongest points weren't a decade old, they were from the last 2 or 3 years, well into adulthood and marriage. That's why it broke containment. It didn't just feed fandom feuds. It mapped behaviors a lot of people recognize IRL: the nice dig, the performative compliment, the group chat cold shoulder played out on a global stage. Suddenly, this wasn't just celebrity tea. It was relatable social dynamics with famous faces. The aftershocks are still rolling. Hailey hasn't addressed the thread. Her PR channels are quiet. New compilations keep popping up with fresh clips and more connective tissue. Some watchers are turning their questions toward Justin, why no public course correction? While others zoom out entirely, why are women still framed as rivals? Why does it take a viral thread to treat persistent shade as a story? The bigger takeaway lands beyond any one post. Fame now lives on a ledger the audience helps maintain. Tabloid cycles fade. Archives don't. Every eyebrow raise, every accidental crop, every like you think no one will clock sits waiting to be woven into a narrative by fans. By critics, by anyone with time and a camera roll. Maybe Hailey's image recovers. Maybe it calcifies into something else. Either way, the precedent is set. In an attention economy, silence is also a statement and timelines talk. Follow for the next chapter, because in this digital world, nothing stays buried for long. Here's where the story usually pivots from chaos to choreography. The PR counteroffensive. When a thread detonates at that scale, the first move behind the scenes is trash brand partners get briefed. Search results get scrubbed where possible. And a calendar appears with safe photo ops, charity events, family moments, quiet dinners at paparazzi-friendly locations. Publicly, silence buys time. Privately, teens test messages in friendly comment sections and stand spaces, watching which lines stick. If a statement comes, it's rarely a mea culpa. It's context, the kind that reframes intent without conceding the pattern. The goal isn't to win an argument, it's to fatigue it. Platforms play their part. The same algorithms that carry the thread can bury it. Flood the zone with new content, get ready with me reels, cooking clips, a whispery voiceover about gratitude, and the recommendation engines reset. Notice how shiny posts start outranking the messy ones. How searches autocomplete to innocuous keywords. How will clips feel harder to find unless you know exactly what to type? It isn't a conspiracy so much as physics. Fresh, high engagement. Posts outrun yesterday's receipts if you feed the machine correctly. But the audience has evolved too. Fans now recognize the ARC scandal, silence, soft focus comeback, and they're less susceptible to whiplash. That's why the thread landed. It didn't hinge on one explosive video. It mapped time. Patterns are harder to PR polish because they don't ask you to react to a single moment. They ask you to rethink the character you've built for someone in your head. And once that internal rewrite starts, endorsements feel different. Captions read differently. Even a manicure shot can feel loaded. There's a thornier question sitting under all of this. What does accountability look like online when the crime is accumulation? You can apologize for a post. Can you apologize for a pattern? The meaningful attempts tend to be specific, not nebulous naming who was hurt, acknowledging why it landed the way it did, changing habits we can actually observe over time. Anything vaguer gets filed under damage control, and the internet has a finely tuned nose for that. There's also a limit to crowdsourced justice. Archiving is necessary. Dogpiling isn't. The same permanence that keeps receipts alive can freeze people in their worst snapshot. If growth is possible and we say we want it to be, then the proof has to be longitudinal. Fewer digs, fewer coincidences, fewer performative jabs dressed as jokes. Not a rebrand, a trajectory. The thread made a case. The next deer will make a verdict. Meanwhile, collateral ripples keep spreading. Brands read sentiment dashboards and hedge. Friends and collaborators go quiet to avoid splashback. Even neutral posts get parsed like Supreme Court opinions. In that environment, one unscripted move can shift the weather more than any press release. It's why silence feels loud, why like feels like testimony, and why a single caption can restart a discourse everyone swears they're tired of. If there's a lesson for the rest of us, it's this: the timeline remembers. You don't get to choose which version of you the archive keeps. You only get to decide what you add to it next. And in a culture that rewards narrative, the only real rebuttal to a pattern is a better one lived consistently, witnessed publicly, and robust enough to survive the next thread. Stick around. Next up, we're unpacking how fandom economies monetize these cycles and why outrage is the internet's most reliable growth hack. Let's talk about the money, because none of this runs on vibes alone. Fandom today is a full-stack economy, and outrage is its highest margin product. The cycle starts with a spark, an eyebrow-raising clip, a resurfaced tweet, a stitched reaction, and diffy. Instantly, there's inventory, long captions on Instagram, green screen explainers on TikTok, monetized recaps on YouTube. Creators don't have to pick a side to profit. They just have to post first and post often. The platforms reward recency and intensity, so the takes get hotter, the thumbnails get louder, and the watch time climbs. CPMs inch up. Affiliate links slide under get the look breakdowns. Within hours, the story is no longer about what happened. It's about the content orbiting what happened. Stan accounts, once hobby pages, operate like micro-media companies. They cross-post, cross-pollinate, and cross-promote, swapping credit in DMEs and splitting the labor of clipping live streams, translating captions, and time-stomping key moments. Tip jars and Patreon tiers monetize access to context. That's really just curation at speed. Discords and spaces become town halls where consensus is forged, then weaponized. Even fact checks become monetizable assets, each correction packaged as a sequel. In a perverse way, debunking and doubling down are the same business model. Both extend the arc, both keep you coming back tomorrow. Brands sit just offstage eyes on social listening dashboards. If sentiment goes south, they pause partnerships. If it surges, they lean in with organic placements. Suddenly, a GRWM doubles as crisis comes, and a skincare routine is a soft reset. The creator economy obliges, with neutral content that the algorithm gladly elevates because it's new and frictionless. This is how controversy gets laundered. Saturate the feed with glossy normalcy until search autocompletes forget what started the fire. The platforms don't conspire so much as they compound. Outrage as sticky comments spike, rewatches soar. Shares explode, so the ranking models keep handing it to more people who behave like the last 1,000 who couldn't look away. That's why cooler, sober summaries often underperform. They resolve tension. The feed wants suspense, not closure. So we get episodic feuds told in jump cuts, engineered for maximum dwell time. The harm is externalized onto the subjects and the audience's attention span. The profit is internalized on the back end where DAWs and ARPU. Live, what makes this moment tricky is that everyone believes they're the exception. Fans tell themselves they're just documenting creators, that they're adding nuance, platforms that they're surfacing relevance, PR teams that they're providing context. Meanwhile, the metric that matters most isn't truth or repair, it's retention. That's why apologies feel scripted and why silence feels strategic. Both are calibrated moves inside a system that rewards the next plot point more than the last lesson learned. Is there a better way? It won't come from a single statement or a platform tweak. It looks like de-incentivizing cliffhangers masquerading as coverage, normalizing nothing new here without punishing it in the feed, and valuing receipts that end stories rather than fuel new ones. It looks like creators opting out of rage bait. Title templates even when the CTR begs for them, and audiences resisting the reflex to refresh until someone bleeds. The internet is addicted to escalation. Recovery starts with starving the loop. Next, we'll trace how these storms globalize in 24 hours, how a US thread mutates across languages, jumps into K-pop timelines, returns with new proof, and turns a domestic spat into a multinational narrative. Here's how a scandal goes global in 24 hours. The first wave hits US timelines after lunch threads, stitches, explained in 60 seconds. By early evening, fan translators are clipping key moments, burning subtitles, and reposting to Shorts, Reels, TikTok with localized captions. These aren't random hobbyists. They're the backbone of stan infrastructure with style guides for name spellings and inside jokes. Within hours, your domestic drama is speaking Portuguese on Twitter, Tagalog on Facebook, Turkish on Instagram, and Korean on YouTube. The phrasing softens or sharpens depending on the market because nuance evaporates in transit. Shady becomes humiliating. Alleged quietly disappears. Time zones do the rest. While North America sleeps, Brazil and the Philippines sprint two of the most online, video-heavy fandom ecosystems. WhatsApp and Telegram supercharge distribution with forwarding chains that platforms can't track publicly. A crisp collage of screenshots becomes the de facto dossier in Spanish-language Facebook groups, then migrates to TikTok where the same assets are re-edited into a new, definitive timeline. By the time Europe wakes up, there are three competing canons of the story, each citing the others as proof. That's how rumor laundering works. Cross-lingual citation loops make speculation feel peer-reviewed. K-pop timelines are the accelerant. They've mastered trend-jacking, replying under the main hashtag with slick edits, then sliding in context threads that reframe your scandal through idol culture, dating bans, fan etiquette, sasaeng parallels. A US clip gets recaptioned to read like a dispatch from Dispatch. Suddenly, it's breaking news in English, Korean, and Bahasa Indonesia. Fan cafes incubate translations with selective emphasis. Then outlet accounts scribe those posts back into English. What began as one shaky screen recording now has the authority of international coverage, because technically it is. China's walled garden adds a mirror maze. A subtitle cut lands on Bilibili or Weibo, rehosted with watermarks that assert ownership and, by extension, credibility. Domestic commenters riff on it, attach older scandals, and build mega threads that Western outlets can't easily audit. Those summaries leak back out via diaspora Douyin YouTube channels, explained for Western audiences, which use reaction creators, then cite because it's packaged neatly and already viral. You've completed the loop, a translation of a vibe, presented as fact. Platform mechanics stretch the life of the fire. TikTok's For You page doesn't care that your original post is 18 hours old if a fresh duet rekindles watch time. Instagram's remix feature clones the frame for a new audience with a new caption, pushing it to explore as if it's new. On X, quote tweets reheat the same clip with different languages, so the algorithm sees distinct posts rather than duplications. Each time, the story resets its breaking status in a new market. The graph looks like an EKG, spike, plateau. Spike, never flatline. Mistranslation is not a bug. It's a growth hack. He said he regrets it morphs into he admitted guilt. A sarcastic, sure Jan tone in English becomes earnest agreement elsewhere, then gets screen capped back into English as a gotcha. Cropped UI elements muted. Volume sliders, off-screen comments become Rorschach tests. Their ambiguity an asset because it invites arguments that boost dwell time. Even debunks globalized framed as what the US media won't tell you, which guarantees a second surge among people who want to feel in on the secret. Brands and PR scramble behind the scenes with geo-targeted statements that incidentally prove the point. Localized messaging acknowledges the narrative's regional mutations. Anodyne posts roll out in waves, Korean first, Portuguese later, each one triggering a fresh round of what are they hiding in the markets that didn't get theirs yet. Meanwhile, creators in non-English markets seize the vacuum with everything explained videos that outrank primary sources because they're shorter, punchier, and captioned. By day 2, the story isn't what happened. It's what each region believes happened. Editors write roundups quoting the biggest non-English takes, and those articles become source material for new explainers as if they were primary reporting. The authority stack inverts. The further you are from the original moment, the more confident the narrative sounds. That's the globalization trick. Translation plus repetition equals certainty. Can it be slowed? Only if the incentives change. As long as algorithms reward novelty over resolution and engagement over correction, the most profitable version of any story will be the one that can be retold again and again and again in a new language, with a new edge to a new audience that's just waking up.